Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm gonna give it a second here. I know it takes sometimes takes a minute to go up, and also let me pull up my chat on my screen here. Hello, welcome. This is our fourth episode of Venom Vlog Live, and I am tired. I'm sorry, I overslept. I was supposed to start this up like 27 minutes ago at 12 o'clock at noon, but today I don't know. I got a lot going on, and this is one of my few days off because we had some changes at work recently, and there might be more required of me coming up. Hello, hey, Angel Rose, how are you? There may be more required of me coming up at work, so I'm going to be busier than I thought I was going to be during the holiday season. Um, at one job in particular at Lego. Hey, what's up, AF Chris? How's it going? Thank you both for being here, by the way. Hey, boss, how's it going? I am not Hideo Kojima. I think everyone calls him boss, actually. um, yeah, so things have just been pretty crazy with work. We had to I guess we're down a person now. We got a new store manager a couple months ago, and now that person is no longer with us at work. They're alive, obviously. They're not that kind of no longer with us. But yeah, so now we're down a person again at work, and it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Um, so we're going to be busy. Long story short, we're going to be busy. So today I was like, you know what? I'm canceling my doctor appointment. It was just a follow up to last week anyway. And as far as I know, there was nothing major we needed to discuss. As far as I know, I said if there was, we can reschedule. And so they were like, oh no, it should be fine. We can check in with you the week after Christmas. And I was like, whatever, that's cool with me, because I wanted an actual day where I didn't have to wake up and drive somewhere. I was like, man, I really hate having to just leave the house. Mostly I don't like staying home for the most part, but in this case I was like, no, I want to go home. Like, I want to stay home. I want to stay in bed as long as I can. So I slept until like 12 o'clock, and my alarm went off, and I was like, 10 minutes snooze. I was like, I'll start the live stream in 10 minutes. I was like, I need just a little bit more. And yeah, it helped out a lot. So I'm sorry, I'm just waking up. But all of you who are here, thank you so much. This Venom episode, or this Venom vlog live, I always like to have a topic. I know you guys are probably gonna have questions and stuff, so I'll always make time for that. And I'm trying to get my chat up here so that I can, see all of you. But as far as what we're going to talk about in this one, I figured we could go through the IMDb page, because in season one, I made episodes where we focused on IMDb and stuff. Death in the holiday season, you guys must be running around like crazy. Yeah, for sure. What's up, Swordsman? And Christian, hello. Christian Cattle, welcome. And Swordsman, hello. Thank you guys for being here live. So that's why I wanted to pick a topic that I could, bounce in and out of through this episode, which was, like I said, it's wow, what is going on with this? Yeah, YouTube's a little different. They're kind of forcing the new dashboard on this, which is fine. I kind of resisted it a little bit at first, but I saw some of the features on here. I'm like, yeah, you know what, this could be good. What's going on, man? Glad to see you're doing well. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing as well as can be. Yeah, it's been a bumpy couple weeks, and then like I said, with losing our store manager again, it's been rough. So it's like, it's just nonstop stuff in our lives. So and then probably even for them too, like they're now out of a job during the holidays. I can imagine that's not easy either. So it's tough for everybody for sure. So I figured, you know what, I'm not going to go do the doctor thing because I was probably going to be there for a couple hours. I was like, I'd rather just do a live stream, do something that relaxes me, and then I can work on some stuff around the house. I filmed a Superman Red Sun trailer reaction, and so I wanted to get that ball rolling on Beyond the Source Wall content again. I did a review for Ghost Rider #3 that I filmed really late last night before I went to bed, and I might try to edit that and get that up sometime this week. And then I have some Transformer stuff that I haven't filmed yet that I would like to. But yeah, I want to talk about that Ghost Rider issue because my letter made it to the letters column, which was really cool. So big shout out to the Inner Demons podcast for alerting me on that. They wrote me a message and like, dude, you're famous. You're in issue 3 of Ghost Rider. And I was like, say what? And I was like, what do you mean in it? And they were like, you're in the letters column. I was like, that's so cool. So yeah, I think I've in my lifetime since I was like a 12-year-old kid, back when I hand wrote letters and sent them to Marvel. I ever since then, I've been trying to see, to get into a letters column and get feedback directly from the people who work on the books. And so it was really cool to do that, like finally make that happen. So yeah. Hey, Seek, how's it going, man? Hey, Bruce, how's it going? So if you guys have questions, please ask them about Venom, whatever you want to ask. Otherwise, the main thing I'm here to talk about is just the updates that they put on the Venom 2 IMDb. Jealous being in letters must have been so neat. It is super cool. Like someone was saying, like, is that a big deal? Like someone who doesn't know comics, are like, is that a big deal? And I go, well, it depends on the person. For me, it's a big deal, and I guess for Chris too, it's a very big deal. It's I think it's really cool too, because not only did you are you a piece of that comic now in a way, but also like as much as a fan can be, right? Short of being like drawn into the comic, which is I think a lot of fans' dreams. But there's that element, and then there's also just like the direct feedback and connection with the team on the book and them knowing you're a fan. And then Balan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who was the other fan who got in the letter page, wrote me on Twitter, and now we follow each other. So it was a connection that it made. So because Inner Demons alerted me and then put a post up where they tagged the writers, and then I responded, and then Balan came in, and it was great. It was like an instant connection with a bunch of people that are talented and big fans of the Ghost Rider franchise. So that was cool. So yeah, and sadly, during the current people who work on Venom, I've written them a letter for almost every issue. I think like or at least 10 of the issues or something. And all positive letters too, and never got in. So I'm like, oh wow. And then I write one to Ghost Rider and it gets in. I'm like, sweet, I'll take it. Ghost Rider's awesome. So yeah, we have the IMDb page pulled up here for Venom 2. And then, like I said, if you have questions about Venom 2, the main thing I want to talk about and get out of the way right now is that image that's been floating around from Tom Hardy Italia, which is a place we've talked about in the first season. So it's funny because all these like sites like Atlanta Filming and other people that we kind of leaned on for information in a way on from Twitter in season 1 when I didn't even have a Twitter account, but I would just go and check out their stuff. Now I follow them and I check them out, and I saw Tom Hardy Italia post an image that was like of a desk, and it said Detective Mulligan, which obviously we would all know that as Patrick Mulligan, the character who would eventually become Toxin. And we also theorized way back in season 1 that the guy who played Dan, who was from the show Veep, I think, as well, and I think his name's Dan in real life, but his character's name is Dan in the movie. He's like Michelle Williams' love interest after she moves on from Eddie Brock, and Dan is like we were like theorizing that maybe he's a detective and he was Patrick Mulligan, and they were going to have him in the first movie and he was going to be the love interest or whatever. Like we had all these theories for season 1 and talking about Toxin and stuff and world building, and they didn't go that route. And so when I saw this image, I was like, well, and Tom Hardy Italia said, well, Tom Hardy posted this and then deleted it. I'm like, yeah, but you're literally the only person I've seen. Like when I track back because I try to track the source of things. So when news comes out, I go, okay, where'd they find it from? They link this website, or okay, that, and then I look at Twitter and I look at hashtags, and I spend like a good 10 minutes trying to track it to 1 or 2 sources. And in this case, I could only track it back to Tom Hardy Italia, and I don't see any news coverage of it out there, which normally that would be the case. And because that would make big headlines, like, is Toxin in Venom 2? And I don't see any of that going on. I saw yesterday on Reed Scott's Instagram page where he posted about starting his film day of shooting Venom 2. Yeah, and we're going to talk about him. That's his name, Reed Scott. He played Dr. Dan Lewis. So we're going to talk about him here in a second because I saw that he got added to the IMDb page as coming back as Dr. Dan. So that's great, and I missed that post on his Instagram, even though I follow him. But I just been so busy with work, especially yesterday. I was nowhere near like the internet. I think on my 15-minute break, I went on and liked a couple things or retweeted something, and then I walked away. I was like, I'll have to look at it later. And then I didn't get home till late last night. So yeah, it's been a rough week. So I feel like I'm behind, and that's why I wanted to do a live thing, like a live stream, because I was like, all right, I can catch up, look at the IMDb, even though and we said this in season 1, this is not an official source of any kind, and sometimes information on here can be wrong. So I always, preface anything that we talk about with IMDb with that. But still, they do get a lot of things right, and people who are working on these movies, crew wise at least, they update their page immediately, because once they're done with their work here, they want to get the next job, and they want to have everything up to date, as best they can. And sometimes these people are working hard on the set and they don't get to update their page. But that's why I feel like I do kind of trust some of the information that comes from this site, and that's why I like to go back to it from time to time. So since instead of making actual episodes about it, I figured we could always talk about the IMDb stuff on live streams, every like maybe once a month as they update it. So today we have here, obviously we'll go through the obvious, which is Andy Serkis, obviously directing the movie. Writing credit goes to Kelly Marcel. That's it. She's the writer. I don't think Toxin will be in Venom 2. It doesn't make sense to use him in the movie. Oh no, I don't think he'll be either. But the character of Patrick Mulligan, like I said, I could only trace that image to Tom Hardy Italia. Normally, when you screen grab like something Tom Hardy posts, you'll get the full image. Like he usually posts the full square images. He doesn't edit his posts like that. He doesn't do what's it, rectangle shaped posts or anything like that. And so when I saw this picture, I was like, okay, it's shaped like a rectangle, which is already kind of weird to me. Not that Tom wouldn't maybe make an exception and do that, but he typically just posts an easy square, just whatever, however, Instagram typically formats things. Then he also underneath will use certain hashtags, and then his name will be above it, Tom Hardy with his picture. So when you screen grab something, you capture all that, and then you usually crop it so you can prove Tom Hardy posted it and that it has his hashtags on the bottom. When I didn't see those two things, that was the big clincher to me that, okay, I don't think this is real at all. And I don't know why Tom Hardy Italia would make up a post like that. Or if they did, or I'm not going to dispute that they say they saw something, but at the same time, I just couldn't track it. So that's just the reason why I'm not going to make like a solo video on it, and why I was like, yeah, we'll just talk about it in a live stream, because live streams is a place for rumors. But even if Patrick Mulligan, the character, who I think is a terrible character actually, is in the movie, let's just say hypothetically he is, I agree with you. I do not think Toxin will also be in the movie, because that's just too much to cram in, and I don't know, Toxin isn't that interesting of a character to me. I'm not really on board with that, especially after reading that miniseries recently that we did the episode on. I think, what was it, 448 or 449 of the Venom vlog? We did the Toxin miniseries, and I was like, wow, this is way worse than I thought. And this this character is so bad of a character. Like, I don't want to watch a movie with this character in it. That you'd have to completely reinvent the character from the movie, which could be good for the character, but I wasn't super excited. So we have Kelly Marcel and Andy Serkis, but I agree with you, Swordsman. I don't want to see that character, and I don't think he'll be in the movie either. I found that odd too. Something did feel off about it. Bruce said, yeah, and Bruce wrote it, sent it to me too. I had a couple people message me and go, oh, did you see this? Did you see this? And I said, yeah, but I'm really iffy on this one. Like, I do like that Tom Hardy Italia page. Like, they seem really nice and they're clearly big fans, but I was like, I can't find any proof of this. So then for cast wise, we have Tom Hardy returning as Eddie Brock Venom, Michelle Williams coming back as Anne Wang, which I'm so glad about. Woody Harrelson is playing Cletus Cassidy. They don't list him as Cletus Cassidy Carnage, but that's fine. I'm sure he's playing Carnage too. And I don't think they're going to do that new of a version of Carnage to where he's not going to bond with Cletus Cassidy. Naomi Harris, rumored to be Shriek, and I hope that rumor is true. She's great. Reed Scott, as you saw on his Instagram, to confirm it, coming back as Dr. Dan Lewis. Peggy Lou is apparently returning as Mrs. Chen. So that's great. That means this is still going to be set in San Francisco. Because remember, I was wondering about St. Estes. I'm like, is that back in New York? And remember, there was a line in the first movie where they said, oh, Eddie, we don't want a repeat of New York, where you got like thrown out of there from the journalist world and you have no career there and no life there anymore. It'd be interesting to see Eddie Brock having to go back to New York to face his own personal demons, but then also pursue this Cletus Cassidy story. That would be pretty awesome. Chris says, oh wow, Shriek would be cool. Reminds me of the video game back in the day. Oh, for sure. Yeah, good video game. Maximum Carnage, great game, where she does like this, and it's like, and that beam comes out. So yeah, Peggy Lou is Mrs. Chen. That's cool, because she has, I think, my favorite line in the first movie. The first movie, Eddie goes into that bodega corner store that she works in, and he says something to her, and he witnesses her get robbed, and then he goes up and is kind of like paying for his groceries that he's getting, his tater tots and stuff, and she kind of looks at him and she goes, "Life hurts, Eddie. It just does." And I don't know, that line is like in a weird way a profound line to me. Like I was like, she's like a prophet. Like I was like, man, that is such a great line, like for any movie, but certainly for like an Eddie Brock story. And to hear it come from her, who she's saying it because he just stood there while she got robbed, and she knew that he could do nothing because it could mean he got hurt, and then or she might get hurt in the process, and so she's just like, she just accepts it, like, yeah, life just hurts all of us. And it's like, oh my god, like it's such a good line. I love it. So I'm glad she's coming back, and I hope she'll provide some kind of humor in the film, with like scenes between her and Eddie, especially after she's the only one who's witnessed, outside of Michelle Williams, Eddie, who's still alive, who saw Eddie turn into a giant monster. So and then we have Alfredo Tavares, who is listed as a San Francisco Police Department uniformed officer, I guess. So that's interesting too. So yeah, just seeing SFPD on here though doesn't mean that there will be characters in the San Francisco Police Department that'll be part of the story. But I also feel like if Eddie's doing this journalistic thing and he's trying to uncover these undiscovered bodies that Cletus Cassidy, these victims that he's laid out there that the government hasn't found yet, I imagine he's going to have to deal with somebody either in law enforcement or on the FBI side. I just feel like there should be a character, or the story might lend itself to have a character where Eddie does work with someone on some level about finding more about Cletus Cassidy, because that's what I like about the St. SD sign and that picture we saw, and Andy Serkis directing, like out in the woods and stuff, was that, to me, it's like, oh great, you took those few lines that were at the post-credit scene, and now you're making something out of it, like you're using that as your jump off point for this story, where Eddie has to investigate into the life of Cletus Cassidy, and it's going to take him to some dark places, obviously, like St. Estes in the comics. Cletus burned that place down, and full of orphans and all, and so it's like, yeah, there's bodies there, and those are bodies probably the government hasn't labeled as victims of Cletus Cassidy, because maybe they never knew he was responsible for it. So, and that's what they said at the end of the last movie, was something along the lines of, yeah, there's more bodies out there, and that's why the government sent you here, Eddie, to talk to me, and I'm ready to talk now. You intrigue me. And he's like, step into the light and talk to me. And it's like, I can't wait to see that interaction between the two of them. Bruce also says, I was hoping Mrs. Chen was coming back. That's awesome. Yeah. And Swordsman says, I wonder if Eddie will chase Carnage to New York as a cliffhanger, setting up the Spidey crossover. That could be cool too. I mean, they could theoretically, now knowing they have a franchise on their hands, they could do that. They could set up this thing where there's a big battle in San Francisco, and they deal with, there's like some sort of conclusion, or whatever, but then Carnage maybe does get away, or you think he died, but then you see him and Shriek, like in a post-credit scene, escaping the exploding building or whatever, and moving their way to New York, or something like that. I mean, you're right, you're absolutely right. Or he could just be captured at the end of the movie. There could be real closure there, and they're like, we're going to send him to a supermax prison in New York, something like tailored to hold supervillains, and then boom, you could set that up. You could bring in the vault, or the raft, or one of those places. Yeah, that could be cool, and then that could set up Spider-Man. I don't doubt that. I'm sure they're gonna try to do whatever they can to squeeze in like a Spider-Man cameo for like the post-credit scene. So yeah, that could work actually. And if they set up Morbius, like if they put Morbius, I know they filmed that in London too, but I don't know where that movie's set, right? I don't think so. I don't think I know anyway. Like I don't know if that information has been out there, but that could be cool if Morbius is already in New York, or at the end of his movie, maybe he's in London in his film, and at the end of his film, he's coming to New York, and then at the end of Venom 2, he's coming to New York, and then it's like a convergence of all these characters. That would be fine too. I'd be down for that. Great. So we have the cast there. I think that's the full cast. Yep, that's everybody. And so then we have, who else? We have cinematographer Robert Richardson. Obviously, very excited that he's on board. Casting by Lucy Bevan. Production design by Oliver Scholl. And you know what? Let's click on these people and just see some of their other work real quick. Robert Richardson we made an episode on, so we kind of already talked about him. But Oliver Scholl here had worked on the first Venom as a production designer, and Spider-Man Homecoming, Suicide Squad, and Edge of Tomorrow. Those are pretty good movies, actually. I mean, Homecoming I'm not the biggest fan of, and Suicide Squad I'm not even a big fan of, but the looks of those movies aren't too bad. Like I'm not a, you know, anti the looks of those movies. They drew me in with the trailers, so I'm like, all right, so they must have looked good. Lucy Bevan has done casting on Beauty and the Beast, as casting director on Beauty and the Beast, and Education, Ghost in the Shell, and Ready Player One, which some of those movies I haven't seen. I saw Ghost in the Shell though. I kind of liked that movie. Everyone was kind of pooping on it, but I thought that was okay. Tom Brown for art direction, and Haley Easton Street for visual effects. So Tom Brown is listed as supervising art director, and Haley Easton Street is working in visual effects. Now, I don't know, and I'm not going to make a mistake I made in season 2, where I'm not going to try to talk about that I know what these job titles do. Some of these job titles I won't know. Like one I thought I knew, and I talked about it in an episode, and I got some of my information wrong. And I was like, okay, well, I should have done a little bit more research. But some of these jobs, it's not like you could just look up and be like, what does a key second assistant director do? Maybe that job you could find out, but mostly it's like, some of these jobs aren't listed like that, so it's sometimes hard to do research on some of these titles, but I try to do my best. Brendan Stone, what's up? How's it going, dude? Welcome to the stream. We're just going through the Venom 2 IMDb page and just talking just in general about stuff. But if you have questions about Venom 2 stuff, any rumors, any things you want to talk about like that, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll get to them. Makeup department, costume designer, Joanna Eatwell. Let's see if she worked on the first one. And makeup department, Angela Levin. She's the personal makeup artist for Michelle Williams. And Joanna Eatwell, though, she worked on, as costume designer, Taboo. So again, crews working together well, especially like Tom Hardy being kind of a producer and stuff like that. Like he and Andy Serkis, like they want to work with people they know and that they recognize, and sometimes they can recommend people and pull them in from other jobs, and other times it's just a coincidence. Like, oh, hey, you're here, awesome, I know you. So you never know how people come together fully, unless they tell you. But it looks like she worked on the Christmas Carol miniseries, the 3 episodes that Tom Hardy did with Andy Serkis, and that relationship looks like brought her maybe back to this. So that's awesome. She worked on Taboo with Tom, and as costume designer, she also worked on Wolf Hall, Carnival Row, and The Miniaturist. So yeah, good resume. A lot of people it's always surprising to people that work in movies and they're like, oh, I started out as like a second unit director on Black Hawk Down, and then I went on to become the director of like Resident Evil Apocalypse, or something like that, like or whatever. It's like people just kind of bounce around like that. It's kind of neat to see their careers move in these interesting ways. Animated classic Beauty and the Beast, or the cash grab live action? The cash grab live action. I should have specified. The cash grab live action is what they worked on. All right, let's see what else we got here. And I said Angelina Levin. She's the personal assistant for Michelle Williams for makeup. Second unit directors or assistant directors, Daisy Baldry, Tom Brown, Alicia Graff, and Brian SMRZ Summers are the ones listed. Daisy is the crowd second assistant director. I don't know if that means crowd of people or not. There is that where there's when you're on a set and you have your director behind the monitors and they're kind of watching everything. Then you have other directors, assistant directors, second, not second unit. They're doing like stunts and stuff sometimes, but you have these assistant directors, these ADs, who do have specific jobs. Okay, like if there's a crowd, okay, crowd, they have an intercom or a microphone or whatever, and they're just like, hey, this is what you're gonna do, and I need you to do this in the background. And then when I say reset, remember where you're standing, you're going to go back to 1. They say like, go back to 1, and everybody goes back to their original position. And then when they have to cut or redo it and stuff. So so you don't, like, the director isn't directing everything, right? They're focusing on a specific thing, but still keeping an eye out for other stuff. But that's where the assistant director comes in, and like anyone else that they need, any other kind of a crowd director maybe. And I don't know exactly if that's the kind of crowd it means, but I'm just trying to use these as examples. So it's very busy. A set is very busy, and there's a lot going on, especially when you're shooting outside and you have cars and you need someone to navigate the cars. Okay, go back to 1. The cars go in reverse and drive back to the original positions. It can be a nightmare, absolutely. So like that's why I like doing these episodes and talking about filmmaking, because I think a lot of people out there who cover movie news and talk about movie news, they actually don't know how movies are made at all. And I don't know everything, sure, but I've been on a number of movie sets and I know how hectic and chaotic it is. So much so that when, like, I worked on, was it Bring It On 4, In It to Win It. I worked on that movie. And on the production side, and I helped navigate crowds for the AD, and I was working in the AD department, and helping moving people back and forth, go back to one, all that stuff, and watch out for the dolly track, don't trip over that. It's like I've been on sets, and you see these movies get filmed, and you're doing sections at a time, so to bring a movie together and it be good is nothing short of a miracle sometimes. It really is, because there's so much that goes into filmmaking. Things that you would never think about. Sitting at home watching a movie, you would never go, oh, this is how they must have done that. You might think of the basic, oh, they must have done this by having him swing and do that. But it's like, but you're not thinking of all the other things in the scene. Like, that's most brains don't work that way, which is why there's numerous people on a set making sure all those things are happening, because it can't fall in one person's lap. It's too much work. Then there's the key second assistant director, who is Tom. Alicia is the base camp PA, and Brian is the second unit director. And second unit directors usually will do stuff like cutaways, or like, all right, something fell on the ground. Let's get a shot of like tater tots hitting the ground. Let's get a shot of someone punching a wall, like just where you see the fish, you don't see the actor. Sometimes you get the actors in there, but usually it's just like these cool pickup shots, these cutaways. Sometimes even stunts, that you might need. Motorcycle chase scenes, things like that. So speaking of the first movie, so yeah, second unit directors do a lot too. And base camp PAs, I've been a PA on a lot of things, and PAs are production assistants that just run around and do whatever they're told to do. Sometimes you have to go on runs. You got to, you're like a transportation PA, where you're just bringing talent to set. You're good picking them up at their hotel and driving them, in like a van to the set or whatever. Or you're a runner, and you have to go and run to do things for production people who are like, hey, we need lunch picked up today. It's not going to be delivered because we want it from this one place, so go pick it up. Or catering is short on something, go pick up something for them. PAs, there's PAs in different departments. Sometimes, depending on the budget of things or what they can afford for the day or whatever, they might just have one PA or two PAs doing a lot of things, if they're like in one closed set location. But for the most part, they have like different branches of PAs and stuff, and runners. Art department, there's a lot of people here, so we're just going to go through this really quickly. And this is like storyboard artists, assistant art directors, set designers, draughtsmen, which I don't know if I know what that job is, scenic artist, a junior draughtsman. So yeah, there's I don't know what some of these jobs are. Concept artist, obviously I know what that is. An art researcher, and drapes master. Wow, that's a lot, man. So we have a big deal. I actually can't even go through all the names. Like that's well, we'll real quick. Let's just go real quick, because these people probably don't ever get shout outs on anything. So I want to recognize that they're working hard somewhere right now on this movie. We have Kieran Belshaw, Victor Capaccia, I hope I'm pronouncing these right. Graham Caulfield, John Colborn, Robert Konzing, Federico D'Alessandro, David E. Duncan, Chris Evans Wilson, that's cool, Lara Genovese, Elena Sasha Green, Rohan Harris, Solomon Honey, wow, Solomon Grundy, Solomon Honey, I like that name, Julia Idas, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Karen Grizonovich, Jake Lunt Davies, Sylvia Stropa, Dan Sweetman, Andrew Tilhu, and Dory Young. Quite the art department team, and that's not even everyone. Like that's not even everyone that's going to be listed here. And sometimes people aren't listed. Maybe it's their first job, or or they don't update their IMDb right away. But remember, the first Venom movie employed over 1,000 people. That's so many people that worked on Venom. That's awesome. I mean, that just shows you. And that was a lower tier budget movie than, like, let's say most comic book movies. Brendan says, what are your opinions on the consideration of the R rating? I think it's likely that they go for the PG-13 rating. We made a video on this, on the PG-13/R rating. I don't think they're going to go for an R rating. I talked about that in that video where Stephen Graham was cast, and I noticed he wasn't listed when I read the oh, I did read him. Yeah, he's listed as an untitled character. We don't know who Stephen Graham is playing yet. There's a lot of speculation out there. Some of you were saying, characters online who you thought he was playing. All of them good ones. I just don't know who he's playing yet, so I don't want to comment too much. But as far as the R rating, Brendan, I would say I don't think they're going to do it. It's so here's the only reason to commit to an R rating, in my opinion, for this movie is to maybe show Cletus Cassidy be brutal. Like, okay, we want to show scenes, flashback scenes, people he's killed, where he like is cutting into somebody, something very intense and grotesque. If it's him burning down an orphanage with people in it, that could still fall under a PG-13 rating, because you're just showing the aftermath of the burnt down orphanage and you're talking about how it was full of people. Maybe they show a quick flashback of like, a nun or someone running down the hallway while it's on fire or something. Not the nun on fire, but the orphanage on fire. It depends on what they show and what services the story. People out there who are like, I want it R so that you can do Carnage right. And it's like, Carnage has only ever been in 2 mature rated books. It's a Beautiful Life, or It's a Wonderful Life, whatever that one was called, and Carnage Mind Bomb. Those are the only 2 appearances ever in the history of the character that were marked mature ever. So mostly the character in 99% of his existence has been in a rated T for teen or PG-13 environment. He's not like, I think people fill in the gaps too much. They're like, oh, he's a serial killer, he's got to maim and kill people, and it's like, yeah, but most of his career he hasn't really done that. There's been talks that he's done that, but there's been a lot of talking and not a lot of showing. So I don't think it depends on what story. If they come up with a story that it makes sense to be rated R because they geared it in that direction from a story standpoint, then I'll accept it. But if they're just going to make it rated R just to cash in on some craze, that's a huge mistake. I think it's a business mistake and it's a creative mistake. And I think everyone out there who are younger, who are just filling in these weird gaps of what they think a rated, like when I think of a rated R movie, I'm thinking of, like, for serial killers, I'm thinking of like 8mm and 7. Now, would I like to see an 8mm movie with Venom in it, like that kind of style, where Eddie's like a journalist looking into a crime of carnages, and then throw in Carnage in there as like action scenes, and it'd be really. But look at, if you watch that movie, it's about like snuff films being made, and Nicolas Cage is trying to crack this case, and it's like one of the worst cases ever worked, and there's moral issues with the character. And Joaquin Phoenix in it too. It's a great movie, actually. It's really dark though. But I think of movies like that. Like, I don't think of, when people go, oh, well, PG-13 to rated R, like think of Alien vs. Predator, that franchise. I'm like, that's not a franchise. That's 2 movies. And going R with the second one, it didn't matter. Like, they didn't really do too much in that second movie that warranted an R rating, maybe except the pregnant women in the hospital getting implanted by the Predaking, or whatever it's called, the Predator alien hybrid thing. Maybe that was the only thing tonally that warranted a rated R, because you really could have got around it. And people are like, oh, well, they'll put more swear words in it. I'm like, I don't need Eddie Brock just dropping F-bombs like some idiot, like all the time. Like, I don't know. I don't need it. So for me, I'm not big on the R rating just to make it R rating. Like, I think a lot of people are. They're just like, I want it R. I want it rated R, so it could be more of this and more of that. And I'm like, but it won't be. And if it doesn't serve as a story, what's the point of doing any of that? Like, so it doesn't work for me on that one. I guess not showing what he does can make it scary and leave it up to people's imagination what he does torture. But that's the thing, is like, the reason why everyone out there is filling in these gaps and saying, oh, I want an R because he can really cut loose. It's because of that. It's because of exactly what you said. It's because for years we've never really seen him cut loose. And our brains have filled in, us fans who are, amateur storytellers as well, in a lot of ways. Like, we fill in these gaps and we go, oh, he's brutal. Like, they're not showing it because it's too brutal for this Spider-Man comic. And so you fill it in. And because you filled it in all these years, now you rightfully, maybe on some level, want to see it. So I get it. I get where the need comes from, but because you don't is what makes people fill in the gap. So now we can reach a mass audience. We can do Carnage PG-13 and have a mass audience fill in the gaps now. And then for years they can go, well, I want a dark Carnage book. And then maybe Marvel will publish one. Maybe they'll bring back Kyle Hotz and some of the writers, David Quinn and stuff from those Mind Bomb and It's a Wonderful Life storylines. Maybe they can bring those teams back and be like, hey, do another Carnage one shot that's mature rated to kind of feed the audience after they see the Venom 2 movie where they get a PG-13 Carnage. If I was Marvel, that's what I would do. That's a moneymaker right there. I'd be like, all right, look, the movie's going to be PG-13. Like once they find out, I don't know if they know right now, but they might be like, you know what, the movie's going to be PG-13. Let's make a comic that's mature rated starring Carnage, so that all those fans who want a mature rated Carnage will come buy our book now, and all the fans who saw the movie who want more, we can advertise this as a more. You're like, here's your more Carnage. Here's your Carnage Unhinged, or something like that. And you can make it be a story that took place in the past, because obviously Cletus is kind of dead now in the comics. So Marvel, if you're looking for someone to write that, I'm your guy. I will cut loose on Carnage for you if you want. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I would do. I mean, or I'd bring David Quinn back too. I thought he's really nice. I still talk to him on Instagram from time to time. He's a really nice guy. So there you go. You got your people. Go get Kyle Hotz, hire him, draw it. Go make a rated R Carnage comic. Release it like a week after the movie comes out, so people can have it, and it'll feed that itch that people have. Sound department right now, we just have Michael B. Koff, who is listed as production sound mixer. He worked on the first movie. His name, they call him Coffee. That's his nickname. And Coffee is the one who helped create the sound of Venom. That Tom Hardy will do the voice, and then they record it. They amplify it to make it sound gruff and darker and bigger and more from the chest, more guttural too. And they play it back on set. So when Tom is sitting there reacting to the sound of Venom in the first movie, there was actually Venom's voice playing on set. And that was because Coffee here, Michael B. Koff, known as Coffee, would play it back live. So when they're recording, Tom could hear in an earpiece in his ear, he could hear Venom reacting to him, which helped the relationship and flow of their conversation in that first movie. So I'm glad he's back, because one of the best things they did in that first movie was the fact that, that those conversations felt fluid, and it didn't feel like Tom was talking to nothing, and then he in pausing, at a certain amount of time, and then them cutting around, the conversation. He was actually having the conversation with the earpiece in his ear. So that's what I'm all for that. Going AFK for a bit, BRB, no problem, Swordsman. Thanks for being here. But because Brendan, what you said, by not showing it, it makes it scary and leaves it up to people's imagination. I think that's just more effective for a character like Carnage, because I only know that version of Carnage for all these years, like the 25 or whatever years he's been around, or 20 something years. I've only known him as the guy who's made me use my imagination of how brutal he is. And so I think that's the best way to translate him is to put that version on screen, so that people watching will then also fill in the blanks and use their imagination. So hopefully they do that. So I hope they don't do a rated R at this point, but we'll see. I'm not in control of that, so I have no idea. And I don't know what kind of script Kelly Marcel wrote. If she wrote a script that lends itself to R, then they'll probably go with R. It just comes down to what services the product the best. But I think PG-13 services it the best at this point. Special effects by George Bell, who works in, so these are all special effects trainees, lead technicians, supervisors, prep supervisors, workshop supervisors, and all that stuff. So we got George Bell here, James Monroe Bowles, Cayman Bourne, Mark Bullimore, Jody Eltham, David Eves, Alex Freeman, Mark Howard II, Rupert Morency, Alistair Poulter, Thomas Roberts, Hayden Sheridan, David J. Watson, and Victoria Williams. And again, I don't know what all of those job titles are detailed about, or I can't specifically say what they're each working on, obviously. But special effects is not visual effects. Special effects, I think a lot of people go, "Oh, I love the special effects in that movie." You probably do, but they're not the visual effects. They're not the post-production stuff. The special effects usually happen on set. Explosions, fireworks, sounds, cars revving up, or whatever. Like, it's all that kind of stuff is typically done on set, as far as I remember, is special effects is categorized as things that happen on set, and visual effects are the things that happen mostly in post. There's a couple exceptions for each in the other way, but for the most part, I think that's what it was. So that's why visual effects has its own category, and these are previs artists, shot creators, visual effects supervisors, 2D post-viz animators from Double Negative, which we talked about, that company in the first movie, witness camera operators, and visual effects associate producers. They have listed so far Imran Yunus Butt, or Boot, maybe, how's their last name, Stephen Cliborn Dyer, Sheena Dougal, Tabitha O'Connell, Harry Sharp, and Melody Woodford. And then right now they're the ones listed in the visual effects department. And Double Negative was one of the companies we mentioned for the first movie, because they had like 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 visual effects companies working on different things for the movie, doing different stuff. And we made a whole video on what I was able to research that those companies were working on. We didn't know for sure, and I think I stated it in that video. I didn't know everything they worked on, but just researching the companies and seeing what they offer, I was able to pinpoint at least some things that they worked on. And a couple companies wrote me back and gave me just generic, or basic, I should say, information on what they do. They're like, I can't tell you what we're doing on Venom, but here's the services we offer to film studios of what kind of stuff we can do. So that was really cool, and that was nice of them to do that for us. Stunts, we have Ginger McCarthy, and she's working on a wire stunt rig. She's the wire stunt rigger. So that seems self-explanatory. Wire work is really specific and really hard, and it takes a lot of training, especially like almost like a Cirque du Soleil style training too. Like you have to really work your core, because when you're on wires, you have to, like, depending on what you have to do, if you're just hanging there and falling, yeah, the one thing you're going to want to train on is keeping your breathing in check when you drop, and catching your breath, and then being prepared for the stop. It's not going to be a sudden stop. It'll be a gradual stop most likely, but in case something goes wrong, people have gotten severely injured on wire work before. So it's dangerous. It can be very dangerous. I think there was that first Venom movie where Tom Hardy posted a picture of him wearing the gear that you wear, the vest, when you have wire work done, and people were like, oh, he's going to play Agent Venom. And it's like, no, he's not. He's Eddie Brock. Like, I don't, like, people were just like, yeah, but look at that vest. I'm like, yeah, that's for wire work. Like that's what he's going to wear underneath his clothes that has wires strapped to it, so that he could, like, fall from a tree or jump in the air or fall from a building. Like, and I think he was in the alleyway. So I think it was the shot from the first movie where he jumped from one window and swung into another. So it's like, yeah, and that takes work, and it's going to be a mixture of Tom doing some of it in some cases, maybe if he wants to, and if he's insured to, and then also stunt people. So it's like, yeah. So Ginger McCarthy, he is worked on Solo as a stunts person, worked on the art department in Ex Machina, did stunts in Doctor Strange and in Wonder Woman. And so that's cool that they're that Ginger is here to do work on Venom 2 and doing wire stunt rigging as well. So worked on the Old Guard as well, the Intergalactic Adventures of Max Cloud, and Fast and Furious 9, worked on wire stunts on all those movies. So very cool. We have here camera and electrical department. This is electrical rigging, camera first assistant, dailies, colorists, generator operators, still photographers, gaffers, HOD practical or HOD practical electricians, and video assistant editors for the main unit. So that we have listed here Byron Bernardo, Peter Byrne, Fergus Hawley, Mark Joyner, Jay Maidment, David Sinfield, and Gary Thornhill, and George Zadar. Zador. So yeah, I'm sorry if I pronounce any of these names wrong. I do want to try to give these people shout outs, because I know they're working hard on this movie. And like I said, I feel like a lot of times, like someone told me that, they said, oh, I went back and watched some of your first season, and you actually listed a lot of people that worked on the movie, and you try to explain some of their jobs. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I didn't want to just, it's not just about covering the movie because it's Venom, but it's also like, if we're going to cover a movie, we should talk about what it goes into filmmaking. And I think that's, a lot of things I don't see other YouTubers do. Like, they don't make time to do any kind of research when it comes to that. And me, I do have to do research. And even though I worked on movie sets, I don't know what everything is. I haven't worked in every department. I've worked in maybe like 6 out of like the 50 or whatever departments that are in movies. So it's like, yeah, you don't know, like you don't. So so I like to try to put in a little bit of time and effort into recognizing people's hard work that work on these things, but also educate a little bit. I think if we know what goes into a movie, I think we'd be a little. I think just people would be a little bit more laid back on their reviews of them. Like I see these people come in and go, "Well, this didn't make sense story wise," and blah blah. And it's like, and I do that too sometimes. But I at least try to come from a place with this kind of knowledge where I'm like, all right, but I know what goes into it. So I feel like I'm making my opinion at least is a little bit more based on knowledge than some other people's are, and that doesn't make me smarter than anyone. And of course opinions are opinions. You don't have to know how like a meal is made to know it tastes bad, like, so it's not like one of those situations where it's like, well, only my opinion matters. It's not like that at all. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion, but I do factor in this information when I make my opinion, and I feel like I'm just one of the few that does that. I'm back. What's up? Welcome back, Swordsman. So that's why I try to do it. That's just me not trying to be, better than anyone. It's just me trying to offer something different than what you would get at a different other YouTube channel. So that way it would hopefully give you a reason to come back here, because it's like, oh, he's factoring these things that, someone else that I like on YouTube doesn't factor in, and that's cool. So hopefully you still like both of our content at the end of the day. I'm really glad that you break it all down the way that you do, because it gives me a new level of respect for those involved with making a movie. That's great to hear. I mean, that's the purpose of why I do this, is I do want people to look at movies from a different lens. It is a lot. Like I said, when you see a good movie, you have to really embrace that you're experiencing something close to a miracle in a way, like a technical miracle, because it's 1,000 people working on stuff and trying to make, granted you have the script and that's your foundation. Okay, this is hopefully the story we still tell at the end of the day. But then when you're filming, the story evolves and characters go, you know what? I read the script last night. I was reading my lines. This doesn't really make sense. Can we do this? Okay, we'll change that. But then the ripple effect of that change can sometimes change things other places in the movie as well. And then you have that. Now you have an evolved version of the script. So it's something that's not accurate to the script. You have something new. So then when you go into post-production and you have like 4 hours of like, footage of usable footage to like of one story, now you got to whittle that down and chop out all the fat, and oh, this is redundant, we already said this information, or we already proved that point, so we can take out this 30 minutes because this whole 30 minutes is just more of this, and we don't need more of that. And so you do, like, you shoot a lot of stuff and you come up with like a 3 to 4 hour cut of a 2 hour, what will eventually be a 2 hour movie. And I know people are like, oh, I'd love to see all that extra footage. It's like, I would and I wouldn't. Sometimes there's a reason it's cut and it's not used. Sometimes it's a financial reason too. So you shoot what you can and you make what you can. But movies are made 3 times: the script, the filming and production part, and also in post production. That's how the movie's made. And sometimes, usually, when you get your final product, it's not really like the first, the script. It's not like step 1. It's step 3 is usually doesn't end where step 1 was, or what step 1 was trying to go for, but movies take on a life of their own. It becomes a living being at some point. It becomes the child of 1,000 people working on it, and then it develops and it grows on its own, like its own life form. And so as a director and as people who work on these movies and producers, you have to rein it in and be like, all right, it's growing, it's evolving, but it's got to still at least stay true to the vision. And that's what Matt Tomek was talking about in that interview recently, who produced the first Venom, and he's doing interviews right now for Jumanji: The Next Level. And now he's, going into Venom 2. And he was like, I heard all the feedback from the first movie. And he goes, and the one thing, though, everyone seems to agree on is that we got the relationship between Eddie and Venom, or, Eddie and the symbiote right. And that's what we wanted to do. We really wanted to set that. That was our heart of our movie. So, yeah, it seems like, according to other people, we got some of the details around it wrong. And we didn't have like compelling, other things going on in the film that we wanted, that we were hoping would be compelling. Apparently those didn't land, but the Venom relationship between Eddie and the symbiote, that did. And he goes, so I'm very proud that at least what we set out to accomplish with the script, that is what we accomplished with the final product of the movie. And it's like, yeah, that's a win right there. Like, if that's what your goal was and that's what people liked and that's what ended up happening, then yes, that's a big win. So it was cool to hear him say that, because and I think when people look at it something like that from that lens, I just hope, I mean, sure, you're still going to be critical and you're still going to not like things because of your personal taste, but I hope it just kind of pulls you back a little bit, you know? And I know some people are going to be like, why aren't you like that with Donnie Cates? It's like, I am. I know what goes into making a comic book. And so that's what my frustration is with some of his stuff, is that I feel like people can work harder. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves in real life. When I work with people in my everyday job, if I can see that if I know they can do better, I want them to do better and I want them to want to do better. And so you kind of help them develop their confidence and everything. And you kind of, you push them and encourage them. And that's what being a leader is. So when you're an editor and you're working at Marvel, you should take the lead, you know. And sometimes they're like, oh, but he sold this many copies. So you know, like Bendis, like, so I am sure most editors don't edit him at all. They're probably just like, yeah, he's Bendis. He's proven his point because he's been on New York Times, you know, New York Times bestseller list so many times, and he's sold this many copies of books. It's like, yeah, but he doesn't anymore. So maybe he needs encouragement again. Maybe he needs something, you know, to help him get back up. His books don't sell like they used to. So why is that? Why, you know, maybe it's because he's stuck in his type of dialogue and he can't get out of it. Help him to help him develop. I mean, that's the thing, is you shouldn't. I always been told the day you stop wanting to be a student, you might as well just give up on life. Like, if you don't want to keep learning, give up. What are you doing? Like, if you're at a job where you don't want to keep learning, quit it. You know, go find the job where you do want to learn stuff. And that's what it is. I feel like there's a lot of people in comics who just think they have all the answers. They're like, I'm doing it, you know, and maybe that's just fake bravado, you know, and fake confidence to kind of dissuade some of the haters that they get, because they do get legit haters. And I'm not trying to be a hater on anybody. I just try to critique them based on my opinion. They don't have to agree with it, and I hope it doesn't make them hate me, but in some cases it might, because, you know, I'm honest about how I feel. But it's like, I'm like, I just want not people to be better in the way that I think is better. I just want the product to benefit. I want the best for the story. It's not so much about what I want, but I want Eddie deserves better. You know, the characters in his orbit deserve better. Anne deserved better. She did not deserve that haphazard death that she got in the comics. These are characters that are going to live longer than us, so why aren't we treating them with more respect than some of the writers in comics do? And that's what I find frustrating about current comics, is that it's a bunch of young millennials who come in and that's not saying millennials are bad at all. I think I'm on the cusp of millennial and the generation before, Generation X or whatever. But still, like, I just feel like it's like all these unnecessarily confident people who don't want to learn, who just come in and go, I'm doing it my way and that's how it is, and I got big plans. Because I have big plans, that makes it right, and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, it doesn't at all. At least not in my book. Hi bro, what's up? Hey, it's the FBI's here. What up? Welcome. I'm glad. Hey, the FBI is a fan. Good to see you, FBI. Are you going to be in Venom 2? FBI, don't spoil us of who you're going to be, but if there's any FBI agents in Venom 2, we would like to know. Sorry, something has come up and I have to leave. Thanks for the info, Siike. Hey, no problem, Swordsman. Have a good night. Take care, dude. We'll see you on the next live stream, hopefully. All right, so let's jump back into this, because I feel like I went on a little rant there. Casting department, we talked about Emily Brockman and Katie Burdon. She is they're casting associate and casting assistant. So those are people working in casting. I worked in casting in reality TV, so I don't think it's the same type of process. Maybe in concept it is, but I don't know about execution. But I worked in casting for a couple reality TV shows once, and mainly I just stood out in the hallway of a hotel while they, you know, interviewed the person in the room, and then I would escort them back to their hotel room and make sure no two contestants pass each other. That was kind of my role in that. So yeah, like I said, you wouldn't think that'd be a job, but it was, and it paid really well. So they work in casting for Venom 2. Costume and wardrobe department. So this is going to be like associate costume supervisors, costume standby people, costume assistants, key costumer, costume cutters and makers, and things like that. So we have here Cedric Andres, Alexandra Bland, Alice Buckingham, Gaia Cozy, Janine Cunliffe, Sean Haley, Ekaterina, that's a cool name, Creenan, Vicky Medhurst, Emma Mulder, Carol Murphy, Patrick Reynolds, Marco Scotti, and Claire Vissy. So that's our whole costume department so far. Of course, they're going to keep adding people as well. But then we also have editorial department, who is Fergus Hawley, is the colorist on the daily. So I think Fergus Holly was mentioned earlier too. So that's so far that's the only editor department they have. And so dailies is like the stuff that's shot, I guess, every day. And I may be wrong here too, but I think dailies are just the stuff. All right, we shot these today. These are the dailies. This is the information where we have. This is the stuff that's going to go off to editing and post production. And I think there was some rumor that Phil Lord and Chris Miller they weren't sharing their dailies when they were making the Solo movie or something like that. I don't know if that's true. That was just like one of the rumors going around. So, but that's like definitely not a good thing if you're doing that. If you're hiding dailies and preventing them from going on to the next phasing and preventing them from being color corrected or anything like that, or upresed in any way or whatever. So it's like there's steps. And again, I could be mistaken here of exactly what to do. I've never messed with dailies personally before, so I don't really know. So Fergus here though is the colorist for the dailies. And I imagine because it's called dailies, it's a daily job. It's a daily thing they have to go through. Location management is going to be your location marshal, your location assistant, your location scouts, location supervisors, managers, all that stuff. Locations we talked about in our pre-production video. So a lot of these people, some of them might not be still working on the movie, some of them, because most of their work has probably been done, or they're working on where they're going next. Like maybe they're still trying to get permits for San Francisco so they can shoot after they film in London, they can shoot in San Francisco. Who knows? Maybe they're going to New York or Atlanta for a week of filming. We don't know exactly what their filming schedule is yet. They haven't released that information as far as I know. But right now they're in London, shooting at like the Warner Brothers stages there in London, which I think is where also Morbius filmed in that area too. So that's cool. Maybe there's some cross connection there, locations that might be shared in both movies. That would be really neat. So the location team, they got to deal with permits. They got to deal with a bunch of bullcrap. It's a thankless job for sure, but it's also great. So when you're watching a movie and these two people are talking on a street corner and you see extras walking by and you have like an assistant director navigating the extras, you have all these people working. That wouldn't have been possible if someone in locations didn't scout it, do a tech scout, figure out what cameras they're going to need, and also get approval from the city and get permits and notify all the people that live in that area that they're going to be filming on that day at that time, and that it could run longer or they might need 2 days to film or whatever, and it will interrupt their parking, like their daily parking and stuff. And here in LA, they'll be like, all right, this whole street, the people who live here, you can't park here for like a whole week because we're filming and we're bringing in our crews from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to have our trucks here and you can't park here, and it's like, oh my God, it's like, it changed your life. Sometimes you're like, oh no, still parking so hard in LA, and San Francisco and London, parking so hard. So it's like, it's an inconvenience, on a lot of levels. So so you don't think about any of that when you're watching the movie. You don't think that, all right, these two people talking on this corner started with somebody scouting that location and then talking to a city council and then getting a permit. You don't think about it. So you don't think about, oh, all those cars parked on that street aren't the residents of that street. They're either the film crew's cars or their stage cars or something. You don't think about how all those people's lives were affected for one scene in a movie. So yeah, it's fun. Like I said, movies are neat. They're a neat a disruption of everyday life, but also a neat trip into fantasy and storytelling. It's crazy, and it's a lot of work. It's very blue collar. Like people who work on movie sets are very blue collar, work hard. Especially crew members, very head down, work hard, get the job done, but have ideas. I think Richard Donner. There's this great story Jeff Johns told about working with Richard Donner, and he said they were like trying to do a shot. I told this story before, I'm sure 100 times, but for those new here, he's like they were filming a scene. Jeff Johns used to be Richard Donner's assistant, and he was like, they're filming a scene and they couldn't get something to work, and then so one of the lighting guys said, or the grips or something said, hey, we can rig something to do this, and then you can kind of move the camera in from this angle, and the actor can come in from over there, and that won't disrupt the scene or the point of the scene, and you still get the coverage that you need. And Richard Donner said, all right, cool, do it. And then Jeff Johns, a young kid at the time who was still learning about, probably, working as a team and listening to other people's ideas and not just being like, hey, I'm Richard Donner and I made Superman, the movie. I can do whatever I want. Instead, he had like a humble approach to it. Richard Donner was like, no, it's a good idea. And Jeff is like, are you really going to do that? And Richard Donner said, of course I'm going to do it. He goes, it's a good idea. And he goes, and when you're working in a movie or something this big, you have to listen to other people's ideas. And he goes, that's a good idea. And it doesn't matter where a good idea comes from when you're working in a collaborative effort. If it's good for the project, if it's good for the scene, if it's good for whatever, yeah, you got to do it. There's no option. You got to do it. And he goes, so it doesn't matter where it comes from. He's like, catering could have a good idea and I'll listen to it, and it's like, that's such a great mentality to have. And so, hopefully Jeff still remembers that lesson and does it today. Because it's a great lesson, especially when you're working in a collaborative effort, like Richard Donner says. Transportation Department, Jeffrey Warren is listed as a unit driver. I don't exactly know what a unit driver does. That is not someone who drives units. You know what I'm talking about? Around. No, a unit driver, I don't know, but Transportation Department, though, is very important for movies. You have to get, whether it's, runners doing like trips for production, getting gear that they need. Maybe someone forgot something at the lighting and grip department headquarters, wherever their offices are. Like if they're working with and I'm blanking on some of the companies I've worked for out here, of course. But there's like a lot of places that make like C stands and tripods and camera mounts and things like that. And sometimes you're just like, oh, we forgot something. We have send someone to go get it, send a runner. Sometimes it's a PA that goes and does it, depending on production and stuff. But Transportation Department is very important, and I don't know what a unit driver does off the top of my head, but the Transportation Department in general, though, is responsible for a lot of things in like as it says, it's transportation. So it's not even just making sure people travel properly. It's like maybe that's a part of it, but that's also on the production side, but also just getting stuff from point A to point B, whether it's equipment, whether it's people, whether it's gear, whatever it is, like there's sets, parts of sets, whatever it is. Transportation Department is very important. Last, and then I'll get to your questions and the comments that were made. We have other crew, which is basically just things that they can't categorize, like production assistant, stuff like that. So we have like senior manager of production safety and security. We have production accountant, clearance coordinators, cast chef, production coordinators, armorer, second unit clerk, medic for special effects, chief meteorologist and assistant production coordinators, things like that. I don't know what a I know what a meteorologist is when it comes to like weather and the news and stuff, but they hired Richard Wild, who's like someone who in the UK, I think, who does is a meteorologist, and he's like going to be the chief meteorologist of the Venom 2 movie. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, is he maybe because the weather this time of year is such a chaotic mess in London, where it's like rainy, it's snowing, it's like it's cold. Maybe they need someone to kind of predict the weather for the week, so that way they can organize their shooting schedules outside for that week. Like, all right, we got to go shoot at St. Estes Orphanage. It's outside in the woods. Okay, well, let's do it Wednesday, because the forecast for that day is that it's going to be clear skies, and it's, and we could probably fake it to look like a summer day, which means the cast will have to show up. If the movie isn't set during the winter or whatever, if there's no reason story-wise that Eddie Brock would be wearing a jacket to this place, which, I mean, he's got a symbiote now. Does he really need a jacket? Can't the symbiote keep him warm? I'm wondering. Maybe the ice hurts the symbiote. We'll see. So because they kind of set that up in the first movie. So yeah, you never know. It could be interesting things like that. But so so maybe that's why they need a meteorologist. I'm just guessing. I have no idea, but I'm guessing because of the weather conditions in London around this time of year, maybe it could cause a problem if they didn't have someone like that. But we have David Atkinson, who's like the safety and security guy for production. David Blank, who's production accountant. So accountant, obviously working in money, all that stuff. If you need petty cash, things like that, things to be signed off on. Oh, this needs to be spent. Mostly producers and other things will work on that, but they'll have assistants and accounting people to help them do that. Because again, one person can't do the job of all of that. It's too much. Kelsey Hammond is a clearance coordinator, getting clearances and permits and all that stuff. You got to have tons of people working on that stuff. So Kelsey is the only one so far, though, that's listed here. Jamie Kemp is the cast chef. So sometimes that happens where, they're like, hey, I got to eat a specific diet because I have, like, if you look at Kumail Nanjiani's recent picture of him for the Eternals, you see how in shape he is. He did that because he was like, well, I'm going to be in a Marvel movie. And it took him a year to get that body. He said, I had to work with nutritionists. I had to exercise. I have a great team of like 6 people that make sure I eat properly because I do have cheat days. Thank God for the guy who told me I could have cheat days. And he does. He's like, here's the deli or the place I ate at during this year where I ate the most. Like he did a really great post. And he's like, this is probably the only time in my life I'm going to look like this because it took a year to look like this. And he goes, so again, you don't think about that. You watch these movies and you're like, oh man, he's ripped, he's awesome, he looks amazing. But that's sacrifice, like to look like that, to look like a freaking gladiator, but to not have the lifestyle of a gladiator, that's not easy. And gladiators weren't like ripped guys either. Gladiators were just thick guys, like gladiators didn't have like 8 packs. They weren't crunching every day, but they were running and swinging axes all day. So they were upper body, like big. So to work out like that, it takes a lot. And so, yeah, you do need a chef on hand because catering is for everybody. That's for people behind the camera like me, who I don't care if I get fat, but they'll have like fruit out and they'll have like snacks out, pretzels, things like that. They'll make meals like, 2-3 times a day. Little sandwiches sometimes, a little, I worked in catering and stuff before on sets with a really great lady who, kind of mentored me for a couple years. And so named Patricia, and she was awesome. And so I've worked in that world too, and in movie stuff. And yeah, sometimes people have specific allergies. There's a lot of things you got to think about. And so it's cool. It's nice to see that they have a cast chef, and they're probably making them really good food. Because like I said, Tom and Michelle and stuff, they probably, because they're on camera, they might have like a shirt off. Like Michelle might be in a bra or something like that, but they might have to be seen, show more skin than other actors, and they're going to want to look a certain way because they're like, hey, that's me up on screen, and I want to, be the best version of myself, I guess, for this character. And so they're like, I need to eat specific things. So that's where a chef might come in. Ben Kozel is working in production coordinator. Jenny Martin is production secretary. And production coordinators usually are over the PAs, and then there's a production manager above them, typically. And the production coordinator will have the PAs like give them assignments, and then also coordinate different things with the office and where they're filming and stuff. So those jobs are really important. I've been a production coordinator before, but mostly on reality TV. So I don't really know the movie side of production coordinating. Before I go on here, let me get back because I see a lot of comments here. I'm so sorry. Bruce said, while filming is going on, how long does it usually take to shoot scenes, or does that typically depend on the number of takes? I mean, that is a completely random answer. It depends on a lot of things, not just, depending on takes for sure, but it does. Like, let's say, okay, we need this scene. It's in daytime. So we're gonna set up at like 6 a.m. and by 10 or 11 a.m. we can start rolling camera because the sun will kind of be a little bit above us. It'll have already risen, and from the sun being from here to here, so we have like 11 a.m. to like 4 p.m. we can film this where the light is kind of consistent. So as an actor, you need to show up. You need to know your lines. Now you can't F around. If you're told, hey, we only have today to shoot this scene. Sometimes you might get 2 or 3 days to shoot a scene, depending on the scene and stuff. And if you're in a controlled environment, like on set inside, you might have a couple days to film a scene, or you can go back to it, which is nice. If you feel like 2 days later, hey, I didn't give the performance I wanted, can we set that up again? Or can we do a cutaway and we just use that room and do a handheld camera and just do a cutaway shot or something? I want to say this line or something. I mean, maybe you can get that. Sometimes you'll do that in reshoots, but it's very fluid process. Like you have to you have a schedule, but there's also some fluidity to it. But as a professional, like you have to show up, you have to know your lines, all the background extras. If you're outside, they have to be on their game. Like my roommate was a background extra before, and he worked on the Hangover movie, and he got screamed at by Todd Phillips because he almost tripped over Zach Galifianakis. Like Zach Galifianakis, in one scene, they were sitting in the airport, and they had his arms crossed, and they were talking to each other, and then I guess in one take, Zach Galifianakis put his legs out and crossed them. And my roommate, who did 4 takes or 3 takes before that, where his legs weren't out, he was just following the same path he was walking. And so when the legs came out, my roommate wasn't paying attention. He tripped over Zach Galifianakis' legs, and that was on camera, and that was bad, like they were like, and Todd Phillips like, no, can't you see? Like, and my roommate was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so like, yeah. And you could get thrown off the set for stuff like that. You could ruin your, or at least your day on that job. It could ruin, maybe not your career, but it affects you because you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be professional. These guys know all their lines. All I'm doing is walking by. How could I trip over someone? So yeah, I mean, so like that extended that scene longer, so you never know. So that's why everyone has to be professional and you have to bang it out as fast as you can. I mean, this is money being spent. This is a lot of money being spent. So you don't want scenes to take that long if you can help it. Like action scenes, all that stuff, it depends on what kind of scene you're doing. If it's a dialogue scene, if it's an action scene, if it's a romance scene, if it's a sex scene, whatever it is, it's all gonna vary. But usually like romance scenes and sex scenes and things like that are going to be on a closed set indoors, a very minimal crew so that the actors don't get nervous because they already have to like pretend to like be into each other romantically. So it's like, it's different things for different scenarios. So it's a hard question to answer. But typically what they'll say is, a scene takes as long as it needs to film, but they say that in jest a little bit too, because sometimes you got to be like, all right, that's it. Those are our takes. We ain't doing this again. Oh snap! Hey there, this is important and interesting. What's up, Andrew? How's it going? Yeah, I don't know about important or interesting, but I'm glad you think so. Yeah, we're just going through the IMDb page, and I'm just talking about what some of these people are doing, kind of giving a shout out to the crew of the second movie, and kind of sharing my excitement for stuff. And then any minimal knowledge I might have about the jobs they do, I try to share that as well. Most likely he's wearing the jacket either to blend in or to hide the symbiote's bulk, or maybe your extra carry space because carrying documents or camera gear. I mean, that's true too. All of that could be the case. But what I mean by jacket is, depending on when you came in, was I was just talking about how they need a meteorologist on set. And a meteorologist is someone who predicts the weather. And they might need that on set for Venom 2 because in London right now where they're filming, weather is kind of all over the place. It could be snowing one day, it could be rainy the next, it could be sunny the next, So they need someone to predict this stuff because they need continuity, right? Like if they're like, all right, we got to film outside, it can't, I mean, I guess it snows in San Francisco and that's mainly where the movie's set, so maybe they can get away with that. But it depends. I don't know what the story is. I don't know if Eddie actually goes to London or if he goes to New York and London is like they're shooting there instead of New York for some reason. Like I don't know what the story is, or if it all takes place in San Francisco. I have no idea what the story is. So for all I know, they need consistency weather-wise. So it's like, all right, we're going to film in London, so we need to film on days where it's not snowing. And then we need to go to San Francisco and we need to film there on days it's not snowing. Like if you look at Venom 1, there's like maybe one or two scenes where someone's bundled up a little bit, more than you would think they should be. But for the most part, that movie looks like it's shot in the summertime. And they shot that entire movie in Atlanta and San Francisco in winter, in like the dead of winter, like December, like November to December in Atlanta, and then January in San Francisco. So, and when you watch that movie, you're like, yeah, it looks like the middle of the summer. And you're like, so that's movies, like, so they want that continuity. They can't have it snowing on a day and film snowing unless they're like, all right, we only can film on days where it's snowing because that's the continuity. And when we go to San Francisco, we can only film there on days it's snowing. So they need a meteorologist to tell them what the weather's going to be like so they can work out that stuff. And again, things that you don't think about when you're making a movie, but yeah, you can't just show up and film a scene and it's snowing, and then you go to San Francisco and it's not snowing there and you film another scene. And if those two scenes are supposed to take place in the same city, it gets a little hard to explain that to an audience. Is going to go, why the hell is it snowing? Wasn't it just sunny like the scene before this? So yeah, so you got to work on that continuity. If nothing else, they need a consistent look through so they can gain or lose much during shooting. Exactly. So see, I should have just read your next comment. You're already way ahead of me. Thanks for being here, Andrew. So we got a little bit left for other crew. We have, I think we mentioned Ben Kozel as production coordinator and Jenny Martin as production secretary. Liam McCartney as armorer, which that sounds like a cool job. I don't know if I know what that is. Miguel Pariente is second unit. Calum Padelti is assistant accountant. Saffron Thomas is second unit clerk. Rog Ward is medic for the special effects group. So that's like I said, special effects is not visual effects. Visual effects is post-production usually. Like I said, there's some exceptions, but for the most part, visual effects is what they do in post-production. They add in like the Transformers, in a Michael Bay movie or whatever. That's visual effects. Special effects is the explosions that happen on set of a Transformer movie, like that look like fireworks, So like that's the thing about Michael Bay. It's everything always looks like a firework when it goes off. I'm like, it makes sense. It's like coming off a transformer, it's like sparks. But when you see like a car blow up, you're kind of like, it shouldn't look like fireworks. Not really. So anyway, so that's a special effect. So you do need a medic on staff for that in case a special effect goes wrong and someone gets hurt. You know, something goes off near someone's eye, or someone gets caught on fire and they're on fire for too long before they get put out. You never know. I mean, accidents happen all the time. I said this before, speaking of Sony movies, in Resident Evil Retribution, the fifth one, and Resident Evil the last chapter, the sixth one, easily two of the worst movies out there in existence, I feel. But also the sad part is that they lost a stunt person on the fifth movie, a woman. I think she died making the fifth movie, and the sixth movie, I think a woman lost her arm or something like that. It's a dangerous business, and if you don't have, if you that's why you got to be professional. You got to bring your A game. You can't have an off day on a shoot day. You just can't. Those have to be you have to be 100% on. And I luckily I've had that experience in my life, so that way when I go to work now, working something smaller like retail, I still treat it like a movie set. I'm like, I got to go and be the best of me I can, so that way other people aren't picking up my slack, or someone doesn't get hurt, or I got to be aware of things. Kids can slip in the store and hit their head. It's like there's so many things I gotta like look out for, and you don't think about it, but you gotta be on point. So even more so in a movie, because someone could die, or someone could lose an arm, or someone get injured, and it's a shame. It's a real shame, especially with something like Resident Evil. I made this comment before. I know this might sound like a shitty comment to make, but if I was making a Resident Evil movie, I don't think anyone. Of course, it's easy to say it, but I wouldn't write a script, which Paul Anderson does. He writes and directs a lot of those movies. I wouldn't write a script where I would have motorcycle chase scenes in a Resident Evil movie. I know that was in the fifth and sixth video games, but I don't like those video games. So I wouldn't have made those scenes in those movies, because that is putting someone's life at risk. And I know Sony would be like, whoa, we're trying to make a big budget action movie here with it's like big budgets, $40 million. Like that's a lot of money, sure. But for a movie like this, like, no, it should be a horror movie. You want to give me $40 million for a horror movie? That's a lot of money for a horror movie, but I'll make that money. I'll try to make that money back with not giant stunt work, scenes. Like I'm not going to have a helicopter crash into a building, and I'm not going to have someone swinging from cables and shooting. Like I'm not going to do any of that, because it doesn't warrant it for Resident Evil. I feel when I think of Resident Evil, I think of like 1 through Code Veronica, and those don't have. There's like one action scene in Code Veronica and maybe a helicopter crash in Resident Evil 3, the video game, or 2. But it's like, but even then, it's like I don't know if that in those you could be like, oh, no actor's going to get hurt here. I'm going to have the staff back, and we're going to control a helicopter, a miniature or something, and crash it into a miniature building. Like there's different ways of filmmaking, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like those people who got hurt on the Resident Evil film shouldn't have been hurt, because I feel like those stunts should have never been done at all. But that's just my opinion, I don't mean that in a shitty way. I feel bad for the people that got hurt, and I just don't want to see that happen to anyone. An armorer on set handles all the prop weapons and stuff. Chris with the win, I believe. Okay, well that's fine. I mean, I'll take your word for that. I don't know, but that does make sense. An armorer. They spelled it ARMOURER. So yeah, they put the U in there. So I guess that's maybe a London translation of it. Could be, absolutely. You know what? I didn't even think about that. So yeah, could be. So I'll go with Chris on that one. An armorer could be that. Tune, what's up? I remember the Optimus truck test video like it was yesterday. I'm old. That's okay. I remember that too. That was pretty freaking sweet. Now you never hear about those stunt accidents. Yikes. Well, actually, if you look up, you can actually look up Resident Evil's last chapter stunt woman injury. Like if you Google that lady is very outspoken about she's suing Sony and all this stuff, and it's like, and some people might be like, well, why is she suing them? Like that was her job. It's a dangerous job. Accidents happen. Blah blah. But she lists specifically what happened, and it does not say it. Like she was vocal saying, hey, we shouldn't do this, and they made a change at the last minute without, like, the director or second unit director or someone made a change at the last minute and said, you know what, let's do it this way instead. And because of that, because they didn't rehearse that, is why it went wrong. Is because you have to, when you're doing like a motorcycle stunt or a car crash, you rehearse it like 100 times, right? Like you crash like 50 banged up crappy cars into a wall or something like that, and you test it out, so that way the stunt driver driving it knows exactly what they got to do, and they can do it maybe in one, possibly two takes, so that way they don't put their own safety at harm. They made a change that was not supposed to happen, and a camera or something, a piece of gear that was supposed to come right at the car and go over it. Because of the change, it didn't, and it went right into the car, and it caused a massive collision, and she lost her arm. 100% she should sue Sony for that, like 100%, because she voiced, hey, I disagree with how we're doing this, and it could put me at risk, and they ignored her, and they made her do it anyway. So fuck that. She should absolutely sue, and I'm glad she's at least still alive. Because so you can look that up. You can hear her story. It'll break your heart, man. She seems like a really sweet person too. What is this? Toon says, what do you think will happen in Resident Evil after RE3 remake? What do I think will happen with Resident Evil after RE3 remake? I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. But yeah, look up that lady, that stunt lady. Resident Evil 3, the remake, the game, I guess it depends on the sales. Like if that sells, if the sales are great, like I think if it sells, Resident Evil 2 sold 4 million copies, I think by this point, according to Where's Barry, and I trust his because he does a lot of research on his videos. If you don't watch Where's Barry and you're a big Resident Evil fan, I recommend you do. Where's Barry is a really great channel, and he's an awesome dude. I'm actually subscribed to him. I think I pay the $4.99 a month on YouTube. I like his content, and I like the level of research he does too. I feed off that. I'm like, good, I'm going to do that amount of research for my Venom stuff because he's so on point with his stuff. So with Resident Evil 3, though, if it sells well, if it sells over 4 million copies, I imagine, I don't know. It's weird. Do people want a Code Veronica remake? Like I do, but I like the HD version that's out where it's the classic Code Veronica. Like, and they put that up. It's like, I mean, that's like a $20 game you can buy right now. And I own it on PS4 and Xbox. It's fun to play that version. So I would say, do you need a Code Veronica remake? No, maybe they just make Resident Evil 8 and they just start moving forward. Like that's what I want with the franchise, move forward. But I did make a joke the other day that they should remake Code Veronica and they should call it Resident Evil 4. And then they should remake Resident Evil 4 and call it Resident Evil 5. And then for Resident Evil 5, they can remake that with Chris and Sheva and kind of like, because that game isn't terrible, but it's not great, but it does wrap up the Wesker saga. So I would remake 5 and really do a good job on that one and make it a little bit better than the one we got. And then just ignore 6. Just renumber Code Veronica to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 6. And then we have Resident Evil 7 already. So don't even remake 6. Like 6 is so bad. Like the only compliment I can give Resident Evil 6 is that it's a very long game. It's 4 campaigns. Each one takes, 5 to 6 hours to beat. That's a lot of content, and you can buy that game now for $6 or $20. That's a great deal. That's $5 per campaign. That's a steal, and that's not even counting like the bonus version, like bonus modes and stuff that you can play online and stuff. So yeah, I would say do that. It's great. Brendan said I would love a Resident Evil 4 remake. That is one of my all-time favorite games. And then shove Resident Evil 6 into a dumpster where it belongs. Sold, Andrew says. Yeah, like forget Resident Evil 6. Just remake 4 and call it Resident Evil 5. Remake 5, call it 6, and then just forget 6 ever happened. This is your time, Capcom. You can erase 6 from the timeline. Do the right thing. Be responsible. Do the right thing. Anyway, and then last we have the chief meteorologist, who I already talked about, which is Richard Wild, and Paige Woodward, who is the assistant production coordinator. So yeah, production coordinator and then manager, and then sometimes usually have a assistant production. I've worked on things that were too small to have multiple production coordinators. So yeah, movie makes sense that it would be they'd have to put more in there. And then yeah, we talked about the Saint SD's picture, and then like I said, that latest picture that came out, I'm not sold on that one. The one that shows Detective Mulligan's desk from Tom Hardy Italia. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. I don't know if I trust that. I mean, I like the Tom Hardy Italia page. I followed them. We've been following them since season 1 on Instagram and on Twitter. But or I didn't have a Twitter account in season 1, but when I got one, I followed them pretty quickly. But they said Tom posted that and deleted it, but I haven't seen anyone else cover that. And when I track that information back. It only leads me to the Tom Hardy Italia page. So I'm like, yeah, I don't trust it. It's like, and if you're going to screen grab something, normally, like I said, you would crop it where you can see Tom's hashtags, and you can crop it to where you see Tom's name at the top. And he usually posts in square images, not rectangles. So the whole thing seemed a little off to me. I mean, if it's true, that's great. That would be, I guess. But I also don't care about the character of Patrick Mulligan. And I don't care. I mean, if they're just gonna, like, Sony does this a lot in their movies. They might put a detective in this movie and just call him Mulligan just as a fan reference. And he might have nothing to do with the story. He might just be like one scene, one line of dialogue, and you see his desk real briefly. Or who knows, maybe Stephen Graham plays him. I mean, we don't know, but I hope not. I don't find that character very interesting. But of course, I'm also see the potential, because the character's not interesting in the comics. I see the potential to maybe make him an interesting character in a movie. So if they do, and they put Stephen Graham in the role, I'll give it a chance, because I'm like, well, he's a good actor. He'll probably bring something to the role that the comics sorely lack. So I'm willing to give it a chance, if that's the case. But if it's not, then I hope it's just a fake image that someone put out there. But yeah, because I haven't seen Tom post it. And normally I do catch Tom's posts before they're deleted. But I miss some too, so you never know. But the fact that nobody else caught that is why it's a little weird to me. So yeah, so any other last questions? Because we've been doing this for like an hour and 25 minutes now. And I think I'm going to wrap it up, because I want to get back to, I got to eat lunch. I haven't eaten lunch yet. And then also, I want to try to maybe edit a video or two before the end of the day, so I can post something tomorrow for you guys. So yeah, so I have a Superman Red Sun trailer reaction. And then I have, which I did right before this, so that's why my stream went a little long. I slept in a little bit, and then I woke up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to film like a 10-minute reaction real quick to Superman Red Sun. So I did that too. So yeah, when you see that video, same angle, like my camera's right here. I'm wearing the same black Superman shirt. So yeah, you'll see that in that video. I have notification on for when Tom posts, so I don't miss any Venom posts. You're right. So did you see that that post then? Did you see him post about Detective Mulligan? Dude, go eat lunch. Oh, I will. I will, man. I will. Thank you, Andrew. I will. I also have this toy here. This you can find. I'll do a little plug for this little toy from Hasbro. It's a Bend and Flex. So I was at Target the other day, and I was actually looking at Transformers because as some of you may know, I have that video almost done edited, and I'll post that. Maybe I'll get that one up tonight because it's almost done. I bought a season pass to Universal Studios. Now, granted, I had a health incident at Universal when I went the other day, but not before I filmed all this stuff. Like, luckily, I went there and I filmed a bunch of stuff for Transformers, and I wanted to make a cool Transformer episode where I rode the ride and things like that. And I have that footage, and I'm putting it together. But then soon after, I had a health incident. So I had to record my outro for that video like 3 days later when I was feeling better. So that video I'll try to work on and post. But I've been buying a lot of Transformers lately, and so while I was looking at Transformers, I didn't see one that I wanted because I stumbled into some extra money recently, and so I was like, or my last check was a little bit bigger than normal, and then from my second job I got paid for that too from Hot Topic. So I was like, all right, I have a little bit of extra spending cash. So I was gonna get a Transformer, and I didn't see one, but I saw this Venom figure, and he was $10. And I thought, you know what, maybe we can just like crack them open and check them out real quick. And my nephew now is a big Venom fan. So I told my mom, I was like, if you want me to go back to Target and get one and send it to, Lawrence for Christmas, let me know, and I will. But so that because I'm not going to make any Venom vlog episodes until January. So I figured, yeah, we'll look at this toy at that, now. And by the way, there's other Venom toy stuff. You know what? I can't talk about it. Don't worry about it. You just keep an eye out on this channel. Maybe in January we'll talk about it. But yeah, there's going to be some cool stuff coming up. So this is I guess you're supposed to put this in his hand, but his hand doesn't open enough to do that. Is there supposed to be a string in here? No. I don't know. Yeah, this says it's supposed to go maybe... Nope. No, I don't know. He's supposed to hold it in his hand, but there we go. It's not really holding too well, but yeah. Anyway, there's a hole in his hand, in his palm, but then this thing does not look long enough to like get in the hole. Go back to your home. His head does pivot. His arms are, so this little black area here is like a bendy thing. So these are hard plastic that don't move, like the between the joints. All the muscles, like those are all hard joints. They don't move. They're hard plastic, but it bends because of the bendy parts, and his waist swivels and his head swivels. So yeah, it's definitely a toy for kids, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to put it on my desk because I had to take some of the Venom stuff off recently because I'm working on another project and I need desk space for it. So I had to get rid of a lot of my Venom stuff, unfortunately. So I figured I would have this though, and just have it on my desk staring at me every day like a creep while I work on videos. That's absolutely genius. Stretch Armstrong toys, but it's Venom. That's pretty much what it is. Yeah, he's got this. He's got you can't stretch him too much. You can't pull him too much. He pulls a little, but not a lot. So don't pull him too much because you'll break him. But he does bend quite a bit. So yeah, it's a pretty neat design. I mean, I wish they gave him a little bit more of a neck. His head is kind of like just right on his chest, but they do give him like the Eddie Brock, like those, whatever those muscles are called, right in your neck, like right there, like that like bodybuilders have. Like that's how Eddie Brock always seemed to me, was like he just had these like big muscles right behind his neck. He just seemed like that kind of dude because he just worked out all the time. I think I've seen the notification, but I wasn't fast enough. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's possible, but I just, like I said, I can't track it anywhere, so I didn't want to make a video on it. I just want to cough it up as a rumor and cover it here because I didn't want to make a full episode on it. Oh, nice. I didn't know DC Animated was putting out Red Sun. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sam Liu's directing it, and I thought it'd be good to do this trailer reaction because I have an interview that I did with Sam Liu and Brandon Vietti for the Batman cartoon that came out 15 years ago, and I'm editing that right now too. That's taken a lot of time. I'm putting already 2 weeks of work into that, just when I have time. So not 2 weeks straight of work, but I just pick it up when I can. My goal is to try to finish it on Christmas and post it on Christmas Day because it was a really great interview, and I got to really get into hear the stories of how that show was made because I really like that show. It was called The Batman, and it's on the DC app. You can go watch it. It's pretty cool. Thanks for extensive coverage on all things Venom and actually interacting with fans. Following you roughly a year and a half. One last double question. What do you think of foreign Venom dubs? Foreign Venom dubs? That's kind of new to me, I think. Like, what do you mean by foreign Venom dubs? Like the German dub of the Venom movie or the Venom cartoons? Like I think the cartoon ones are kind of cool, but I think I've seen someone send me a Venom video like in Spanish or something, and it was like from the animated series. But do you mean that? Can you clarify question 1 for me? Question 2, you said, do you think we'll ever see a remake of PS1 Spider-Man game and Monster Ock? That really creeped me out back then. I don't know if you'll see it in a video game, but you know what? If the right person writes comic books, comes up with, wants to do that idea, that could be cool. Yeah, I would say you might see that in a comic book at some point, but I would write people who write the comic books and ask for that idea. Excuse me. Wow. Oh, dope. Sam Liu is great. I love the animated movies. Sam Liu is fantastic. He started following me on Twitter, and him and I messaged a couple times. Him and Brandon were nice enough to take time out of their day to go with me to House of Secrets comic book store in Burbank and film like a 45-minute interview. I have a lot of footage. I'm going to cut a lot of it out. It was really neat. So there's going to be some things from that interview that only I will know, and out of respect to them, like, talking with them, because that's what happens sometimes. Just like a movie, but doing interviews, sometimes you get information, and I'm like, you know what? This is a really great gem, and I appreciate it. I appreciate knowing it, but I have a narrative, and I have not a narrative, but I have a theme, I guess, with how I want to structure this retrospective, and I'm putting more thought into it. I don't want to just I'll just put all the footage up. I feel like that's kind of lazy, and I do that sometimes, and I feel like that's not the way to go with this. I want to cut something together that's really nice, that shows clips from the show. I'm going to demonetize it because I'm pretty sure if I don't, I'm going to get pinged for the footage from the cartoon. So I'm going to probably demonetize it, but I'll put it up here on YouTube on Christmas Day as the plan, along with my Philip Van interview as well. So I got both of those, and I just figured, you know what, I'll just put them both up on the same day, and we'll just do interviews on Christmas. Because that's my thing, is like I know I talk, it's a lot of just me and the camera for a Venom vlog. And every once in a while I brought in like my friend, Joe, Slepsky, and a couple other people I've had on the show, and a couple interviews. But I really do want to branch out more. I don't want it to just be me talking about Venom. So that's what the cool thing about these live ones is that it is still me in my room with the camera, but I get to read what you guys say and respond to it and comment on it. And that way, anyone who's watching this later gets to see your thoughts on it too, and not just mine. People who may not go down and read the comments, they actually get to hear what you're saying to me when I read them out. So I appreciate it. So please, I'm going to keep doing the live streams until I can get to a point where I have, a couple thousand more followers. Maybe at that point I'll have more access for interviews and stuff. But I'm trying. I'm really working on interviews. I'm going to try to hit them up after the holidays for the Venom, Maximum Venom cartoon. I'm going to make that happen for you guys. I'm going to do whatever I can to talk to those writers, and hopefully Ben Promsky, who does the voice of Venom in the cartoon. So, and we'll get back. We'll cover a lot of cartoon stuff next season on the show for sure. Yep, that's exactly what I meant. Thanks, man. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I haven't seen too many Venom dubs, but yeah, anything Venom, I'm in. Like, like send me whatever you want, and I'm into that. Well, not everything. Sorry, there are people out there that do like weird tentacles stuff and shipping stuff with Venom. Not into that stuff. But as far as like dubs and stuff, like yeah, sure, you can send me stuff like that. It's going to be carnage. Garami, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Unfortunately, you're coming in right at the end. But yeah, we did. If you want to go back and watch the episode, we talked a lot about the second movie and the people that are working on it. We went through the IMDB page. And we'll probably do this again in like maybe like a month or two. We'll do another live stream, and we'll go through any updated names on the IMDB. But for now, I just wanted to do this and then answer any questions you guys had. And then, like I said, I canceled my doctor appointment today because I just wanted to relax at home and get some work done that wasn't work related, like that's more creative related. And I have my novel, which I was trying to get done by Christmas, and I'm just not gonna. I'm so bummed out about it. Between being sick and then now, I'm gonna be working more at work because of what happened at work. It's like I'm never catching a break with that book. The book has been a curse for me. I'm writing a sequel to Peter Pan called The King of Neverland, and it's been a curse. I've been working on it for 2-3 years now, and I've rewritten it from scratch like twice. And I'm finally at a place where I really like where it is, and I just need to finish it. And I'm just find myself without any time. And I know some people are gonna be like, well, why didn't you just not do a live stream and work on the book? You're right. Like, I can't argue with that. It's a great point, but I needed another outlet to talk about something creatively today, because writing is a very isolating feeling, and I've been feeling isolated lately. So I needed something that felt interactive to kind of help me mentally get through another round of isolation when I write. So maybe I will go and work on that while the videos. Usually when I edit a video, I'll spend like an hour or so working on a video, edit it, and then it takes like an hour to export or render. While it's rendering, usually I pull up my Word document and I start working on my book then. And then the video's done, I save it to my computer, I schedule it for an upload on YouTube, edit the next one, render, go back to writing. And that's usually my format. That's how I can multitask, is I just do one thing at a time. But I have things working in the background all the time too. So yeah, so I might go work on that. So thank you guys for being here. Garami, Toon, AF, Chris, Swordsman earlier, Andrew, Brendan, even the guy who came in and made that vulgar comment. Thank you for being here. Christian, Kaysen, Wright. We had Bruce in here. Angel Rose was in here earlier. All of you guys, thank you so much. If I missed your name, I'm so sorry. Hopefully I got all you guys. But thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting the show. Happy holidays to you. I'm off the day before Christmas, as far as I know. I think I am, I know I'm off Christmas Day, but I know a lot of you guys will be with your families. But if you want Christmas night, maybe, if you guys would be down for a live stream, maybe I'll do one just to kind of wrap out the year of Venom stuff. Maybe we'll do that for sure. So let me know what you think. Garami, thanks for the heart. Let me know what you think of that, or we can do it. I can't do it the night before Christmas because I'm going to go have dinner with a friend of mine who works at DC. He used to work on Transformers. He works at DC, and he invited me over for dinner to be with, like, hang out with him and his family and stuff. So I was like, dude, that's really nice of you. I'll take you up on that because, I wouldn't mind. I like that. I mean, I'm, as someone who, I have no ambition to have like a family or anything like that. So, but I like being around people who have families. I like to vicariously for a day see what it's like. It's like Wolverine, that scene where he's like at the dinner table and Xavier's like, see, this is what it's like to have a family. It's like, that's kind of how I am. I'm like, I kind of detach like that, but I do like to experience it from time to time and experience what the holidays should be about. So I'm going to go take part of that and talk Transformers and DC stuff on Thanksgiving Eve or Christmas Eve. So I'm excited for that. So, but maybe I'll do a live stream that day. So, hey, that's okay. Eddie's Mullet. Right when I stop, it'll render, it'll go up, and you can check it out. And we'll come back. Like I said, hopefully maybe Christmas night if you guys want it, or one of the days soon after Christmas. We'll do a final end of the year stream for Venom vlog. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I will see you all in the future. Peace.